Welcome and welcome back, everybody. My name's Tia, and in today's video, I'll be teaching you how to play the Railroad Inc. Arcade Expansion Pack. If you're unfamiliar with the base game for Railroad Inc., please feel free to check out my other tutorial video on just the basic game. I'll post the link down in the description below or up in the card if you would like to check that out first. In the Arcade Expansion Pack, we have 4 unique dice, each of which will change the course of the game ever so slightly. We have our Tetromino die, our Rainbow die, our Pluck Man die, and our Galactic Invaders die. Let's start by taking a look at the Tetromino die expansion. This expansion is weighted at a difficulty of easy, and when using it, you will play the full complement of 7 rounds of the game. In order to use the Tetromino die expansion, you'll simply add it to your lineup of the 4 base game white dice and roll them at the beginning of the round. Before placing any routes, you optionally may or may not use the shape provided in the Tetromino die to enhance spaces on your board. To do so, you can rotate the shape in any way or flip it, provided that the entire shape fits on your board and that all of the spaces you enhance are empty spaces. So for example, I could place this T-shape here, and to show that a space is enhanced, we are simply going to circle the round tracker up in the top right corner. On this round and any future rounds, I can then draw routes into those enhanced spaces to score me points. So I might place this straightaway railroad here, drawing in round 2, which at the end of the game will score me a point. Any spaces that are enhanced that have not had routes drawn in them by the end of the game will be worth -1 point each. So here's a quick example of a very basic scoring. Here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces that are enhanced and have been filled in, but we have to subtract 1, 2, 3 for these spaces that are enhanced without routes drawn in them. So if this was my final board, we would have a total of +2 positive points to my final score. Next, let's take a look at the Rainbow die expansion, which is considered medium difficulty and reduces the total number of rounds from 7 down to 6. When playing with the Rainbow die, you'll add it to your 4 white base game dice and roll them at the beginning of each round. There are 3 die faces that you may encounter when playing with this expansion. The first of which is the Rainbow. These are very useful because they'll act similar to stations on your board connecting different routes. In order to place a rainbow, it has to be placed into an empty space on your board, and it cannot be placed orthogonally adjacent to any other rainbow that you already have. So these 2 up here, just to be clear, are diagonally adjacent, which means that that would be a legal placement. Rainbows can also be used to remove rain clouds on your board, which block up spaces. So I could use a rainbow to replace this rain cloud here, but I could not use it here because that would mean that it's orthogonally adjacent to another rainbow, which is a no-no. The other die face you may see is the rain cloud. These will block up spaces on your boards, and since they are a negative effect before anything else happens in the round, you'll pass your boards counterclockwise, and the person on your right will draw in a rain cloud on your board. Rain clouds are placed on empty spaces of a board, and, if possible, orthogonally adjacent next to a pre-existing rainbow. If there are no spaces available that are orthogonally adjacent to rainbows, then your opponent can simply place the rain cloud on any empty space. The last die face that you may see is the clover. These will block up spaces on your board similar to rain clouds. However, they will potentially provide you bonus points for endgame scoring. Clovers can be drawn on any empty space of your board, regardless of any sorts of adjacencies to previously drawn symbols. So the first thing we'll look at with endgame scoring is the placement of your rainbows. It's important to remember that rainbows act similar to stations connecting routes that lead into their space and out of. So in this example, we have this route, which connects through the rainbow for 2 exits, which would be worth 4 points. Rainbows will also get you points based on the number of adjacent clovers to each rainbow. So for this rainbow, I have a clover, which will be worth 2 points. This rainbow is adjacent to 2 clovers, which will be worth 4 points. Down here, since this clover is not orthogonally adjacent to the rainbow, it's only on a diagonal, it won't provide any bonus points. Clovers on their own will also not provide any points. Rain clouds do not deduct points from your score, nor provide points. One little scoring rule that may be easy to miss with this expansion is regarding open-ended routes. Typically, an open-ended route that leads into a blank space will be worth -1 point. However, with this expansion, if that space is filled with a rain cloud or a clover, you will not subtract 1 point for that open end at the end of the game. Next up is the Pluck Man die expansion. This expansion is considered medium difficulty and will keep the full 7 rounds of the game when being used. When playing with the Pluck Man die, you'll go ahead and roll all of your dice. Before placing any of your route dice, you must place the Pluck Man die if you were able to. There are 3 different symbols: Pluck Man, ghosts, and fruit. In order to place one of these symbols, you won't actually be placing them onto the grid of your main board. You'll actually be drawing them next to an exit that is around the perimeter of your board. Placing the die, regardless of the die face, will require you to find an unused exit, meaning an exit that doesn't already have a Pluck Man symbol and that does not have any routes connected to it. At the end of the game, you'll be scoring points based on the different symbols that are connected to each group of routes. So the first thing you'll look at is each route that has 1 or more Pluck Men. Despite the number of Pluck Men, if there's at least 1, you'll start off by scoring 3 points for each of those routes. The next thing you'll look at are any ghosts. Now, typically, ghosts are going to be worth -2 points. So in this example up in this corner, I have 3 for my Pluck Man, -2 for my ghost. However, if ghosts are connected to a route that contain at least 1 Pluck Man and 1 fruit, they will be worth +2 points instead of -2. So for this larger route here, we have 3 for our Pluck Man. And since there is a fruit connected and a Pluck Man, these 2 ghosts will be worth 2 points each for a total of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. Any fruit tokens drawn on their own will not be worth any positive or negative points. The last expansion we'll be talking about today is the Galactic Invader expansion, which is ranked at a medium difficulty and will allow you to play with a full 7 rounds of the game. Now, prior to starting, there will be a tiny setup step. Everybody will rotate their boards counterclockwise. The player on your left will be able to draw 2 invaders on any of the 2 empty spaces on your board. To do so, you'll just draw a little invader symbol in the bottom right corner of those spaces. Later on during the course of the game, if the invader symbol is shown on the die, before doing anything else that round, you will rotate your boards again in a similar fashion, and your opponent will be able to draw an invader on an empty space of your board. One of the ways that you can get rid of invaders later on is by drawing in symbols on that space, provided that the invader is unprotected. So here, for example, I could draw in a highway and erase this invader, which is not shielded. However, down here, since this invader has a shield, I can't draw a route and then erase him. Another die face that you will encounter is the attack die. The first thing you'll do in this case is give all invaders that are currently on your board a shield by drawing a circle around them. So here we have this and this one. The next thing that will happen is that any spaces that contain routes or any other symbols that have invaders on them will be destroyed. So up here we have an invader on this railroad section, so it will destroy the railroad. The third type of die face that may come up is the nuke. This will allow you to erase any one invader from your board, whether shielded or not. At the end of the game for scoring, you'll simply deduct 1 point for each invader shown on your board. So in this example, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for a total of -5 points off our final score. So those are the 4 dice included in the Railroad Inc. Arcade expansion pack. Let me know in the comments down below which one of these expansions you are most excited for. If you found this video helpful or enjoyable at all, please feel free to leave a like, and you can also subscribe or check out more of my videos down below. Thank you again so much for joining me today, and I hope to see you next time. Bye!